After pioneering photographic film, we made it our mission to help change the world. We'll never stop innovating for a healthier world. FUJIFILM, value from innovation. After pioneering photographic film.
Hello, welcome to FUJIFILM and this session called Spotlight on a New Generation of Open MRI. Thank you for joining. I'm Mélisande Rouger, a healthcare journalist, and I'll be moderating the session today. Before we start, please remember there'll be a short Q&A at the end of the session. You can start posting your questions anytime before that. First, let me share some facts about FUJIFILM. The recent acquisition and incorporation of Hitachi's diagnostic imaging business into the new FUJIFILM Healthcare company has generated a powerful new force in medical imaging. The move is part of FUJIFILM's plan to become a more comprehensive healthcare company capable of providing highly customized and advanced solutions. Today, FUJIFILM offers a wide range of products, including diagnostic X-ray imaging equipment, ultrasound systems, endoscopy, in vitro diagnostics, CT, MRI, and medical informatics. With this milestone, FUJIFILM became a one-stop medical solution provider that supports the transformation of healthcare and the improvement of human health. So without further ado, please let me introduce Luigi Lunetta, Head of MRCT Business Europe at FUJIFILM Healthcare Europe. Luigi, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mélisande, and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you very much for attending this online meeting. I would like to start saying that our journey in MR started in 1990 when we launched the first open permanent MR scanner in the European market. Since then, we built more than 30 years of experience and innovation in this field, as we never stop dreaming and we strive for continuous improvement at 360 degrees. Today, our MR portfolio truly represents our philosophy, having the human being, be a radiologist, be a patient, be a technician, be whoever else around what we matter, human being at the center of our actions, all our actions, and in particular, research and development. As a matter of fact, today our MR devices allow healthcare professionals to work faster, reliably, and more efficient and with less stress. The MR devices that we provide allow healthcare professionals with state-of-the-art technology, driving uncompromised diagnostic power. And basically all these with an unrivaled patient experience. Talking about patient, we shall remember that an MR exam is often a stressful experience for the patient. And the reports say that approximately 5% of the patient are not able to complete the scan because of their anxiety of claustrophobia. And this share increases when we put in the number bariatric or pediatric patient. Scanning these, let me call them difficult patient, may drive to repeat scans with consequent time and cost increase for healthcare professionals. Open MR scanner actually offer a more relaxing environment and resolve all these issues with these I call the difficult patient. And this is a key factor that motivates us to keep on developing open MR scanner. At the last RSNA Congress in November last year, FUJIFILM has launched its last top-line open high-field MR scanner called OASIS Velocity, a truly open scanner featuring SynergyDrive Automation Suite, a technology package which is embarked on the majority of our MR and CT product. But coming back to OASIS Velocity, what's new with it? What this kind of offers, which has not been available so far? Well, first of all, it reduces procedure variation by automation and user guidances. It expands investigation capabilities with the state of the art and advanced application. It boosts radiology diagnosis power through enhanced imaging capabilities. It grants consistent results through advanced signal processing and image reconstruction techniques. And last but not least, once again, is a truly open, silent, and very, very patient-friendly high-field MR scanner. To have a visual touch of all these, I invite you all to have a glance at this small clip before listening Dr. Tanenbaum experience. And with that, I thank you once again for your attention. And after the clip, the floor is back to you, Mélisande. Thank you very much.
Okay, that was an amazing presentation. Now let's understand what this all means in real clinical practice. There's no better person than the very first customer worldwide who can share his insight into OASIS Velocity. I'm very happy to welcome Dr. Lawrence Tannenbaum, Chief Technology Officer, Director of Advanced Imaging, and Vice President of RadNet, a leading provider of outpatient imaging services in the United States. Dr. Tanenbaum is a very active public figure in the global radiology scene, and he's spoken extensively about technology, AI, and many other advances in medical imaging. Dr. Tanenbaum, hello. We're very happy to have you here.
It's nice to be here too.
Great. So let's start, Doctor. Why did you choose OASIS Velocity from both a user and a patient's perspective?
Well, we're very patient-centric in our imaging processes, and we're very aware that patients find the MR scanners to be a very stressful environment, whether they're open or closed. Up to a third of patients will experience real anxiety when inside that bore, and it's a very comfortable position for patients. Now, as an organization, we really believe in this open MR technology. We've invested very heavily, and our patients appreciate it very much. These devices tend to draw patients towards them that are either large or extremely anxious, which tends to make the value of these systems when they go in even greater. But we do use them across the board for all patient populations as well.
Okay. OASIS Velocity incorporates IP Rapid. It's an advanced reconstruction and scanning technique. How does it impact in your daily routine?
Well, the world of MR is changing very, very quickly, and we now have technologies that can change the game. Because traditionally with MR, scan time equals scan quality, and we've tried to equalize that with coils and other technology. But you make small incremental steps. The world is now moving to more clever, more machine learning driven algorithms. And what these algorithms do is essentially shift the entire needle. I have extensively evaluated the IP Recon image enhancement tool that is built into our Velocity systems, and it really does enhance things across the board, and is a substantial advance. We were able to deliver images that were noticeably better across the board in roughly a third less time than we did on our other OASIS systems. So this really is a significant shift forward.
So your workflow has changed with OASIS Velocity?
Yeah, I think our workflow, of course, has changed. Patients are going to be on and off the table faster. They're going to appreciate the faster acquisition times. We do get reactions from patients that suggest that, gee, I remember this being longer last time. But there are other things on the Velocity that affect our workflow beyond the reconstruction, beyond the scan times. Yes, you can reduce your cumulative scan times by about a third. Maybe you were 15 minutes before, now you'll be down about 10 minutes. And that's a big difference in terms of patient experience and workflow. But the hidden time in an MR scan experience that affects facility workflow, productivity, and the ability to scan patients is the time it takes to prepare a patient, get the patient on the table, get the coils positioned properly. And one of the things that the Velocity delivers is a modern style RF system where the coils are built into the table and the anterior coil elements can be applied in much less time than it would take to apply a bulkier coil. And since these coils fit all patients, we don't have to pick out the coil in advance and perhaps misestimate, do I want a large coil, do I want a medium coil? With the coil on the table, patient just lies down. We put the anterior coil on into the appropriate fashion. It goes on very quickly. The workflow is enhanced. The comfort is enhanced with these tools. And I think that has a big impact on workflow.
Okay. Doctor, I believe you're a strong believer in AI, I think, from what I've seen from you online. What can you tell us about AI-driven automatic scanning?
Well, that's very interesting because I'm actually not Lawrence Tannenbaum. I'm just a robot filling in for him, with some reasonable amount of artificial intelligence. As a matter of fact, I may sound a bit too clever today, and you'll assume it was the robot. So your question again was AI in terms of
automatic scanning.
Yeah. So I've got that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to be funny and then I forgot the question.
No worries.
So, in terms of automatic scan acquisition, this is one of the most important quality maneuvers that we have in terms of radiology. Being able to get the scans in the same way with the images coming out in roughly the same position really does do two very important things. One, it makes the examinations a lot easier to be interpreted because we don't have to extrapolate between slices mentally. They're right there in front of us. This is really important when we're following up an oncologic lesion or an inflammatory disease, which we're monitoring for interval compression like multiple sclerosis. That's a very big thing for us. On the other hand, let's not miss the opportunity to point out that when the scans set themselves up, they need fewer adjustments. I think that's very, very important. When it basically sets itself up and the technologist has faith in the operation, they don't spend their time tweaking, adjusting, and looking at things like that. At the end of an exam, there's several minutes that you have saved because you just haven't had to do the checkup manually. And, sorry about that. Someone's alarm's going off. We also don't have to have repeat exams that are done because the coverage is inadequate or the angulation is inadequate. So these are really important tools that are essentially these days in 2022, the hallmark of a modern, progressive, patient-focused, workflow-focused system. And it's very nice to see the Fuji system, the Velocity, being right there with these technologies, both the coil setup as well as the automatic scan setup, which I think are a sine qua non of a 2022 high-field system.
Great, thanks for this input. Let me remind the audience that you can submit your questions anytime to Dr. Tanenbaum or Fuji, and we'll try to answer them right after the session. I have another question for you, Dr. Tanenbaum. And actually, what can you tell us about image quality with OASIS Velocity?
Well, yeah, honestly, we have always been very happy with our OASIS image quality. We've been using these. I had no experience with this until I came to RadNet. Now I'm in my 7th year. And one of my greatest achievements in my role is to get a nationwide set of OASIS protocols that deliver excellent quality and great consistency across the country. We worked very closely with Hitachi at the time, now Fuji, to go ahead and design protocols that meet our facilities' desires and requirements. And we've always been very, very happy with the quality. As a matter of fact, I get all of the painful phone calls in my institution. This isn't right, that isn't right. We have hundreds of sites and hundreds of scanners, and these things are inevitable with something as meticulous as MRI. And one of the fewest, I rarely get a call on an OASIS system. Now, where we are now with Velocity is a significant step forward. The technology is constantly moving forward, and here Fuji has taken that appropriate step forward with some improved coils and substantially improved signal to noise, via the IP recon noise reduction. And this generally turns into better quality. We don't take as I mentioned, scan time is related to signal. What IP recon does is give you a whole bunch of free signal, sort of changing the game. But then, it would be a missed opportunity to turn all of that signal into speed. And invariably, when we get these technologies in our hands, we turn part of it into speed, but a substantial part of it into quality. So again, the real question is, how are the images on this Velocity system and how do they appear to me? Well, they appear excellent and consistent and a notch better than we got before with our OASIS systems that didn't benefit from the new coil setup and from the IP recon technology.
Great, great. I had an extra question maybe on the patients you've imaged with OASIS Velocity. Can you tell us a little bit about them? What kind of patients are they? Oncological or?
Well, we only image left-handed patients in the Velocity, for obvious reasons. I'm only kidding. We take all kinds of patients. Obviously, we have our patients that seek out these systems. Patients who are anxious or patients who are claustrophobic, and there's still a large population of patients who think of open magnets as the newest and greatest thing. We're happy to take them as well. But I would say that there's really nothing special or unique about who we get on our systems, other than the fact that we would get slightly more claustrophobic and slightly more heavy patients. These systems, almost invariably in our institutions, will take all comers.
Okay, well, good to know. Okay. So as I said earlier, you can submit your questions to Dr. Tanenbaum. There's no problem. We'll be dealing with that later. Anything else you feel like adding right now, Dr. Tanenbaum, on the system?
Honestly, it's a good-looking system. It's not very intimidating to patients. The technologists really like operating these systems. We have very little issue with consistency, compared to the norm in the industry, doing, how many thousands of scans a day we do in our institutions. Really very pleased with it.
Okay, right. Nice summary. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with OASIS Velocity, Dr. Tanenbaum.
Great.
Now I would like to introduce Janos Estegalios. He's MRCD Product Manager at FUJIFILM Healthcare Europe. Janos, I believe you're going to tell us why a radiology department should choose OASIS Velocity. After what we've heard, good luck. And whenever you're ready, we're all ears.
Thank you, Mélisande. So actually, after this nice interview, there is not much left to say. Just sum up that OASIS Velocity creates a win-win situation for users and for the patients, because there are some patients who, due to the size, physical or mental conditions, simply cannot be scanned in the horizontal bore. But with OASIS Velocity, no matter how challenging the patient or situation, we have a solution. Actually, we can say that OASIS Velocity is one system for all, regardless that the patient is coming from critical care, anxious, needs interventions, pediatric or bariatric, or even left-handed, as Dr. Tanenbaum said, we can perform the examination. So with our ultimate patient-friendly design, combined with the high-field technology, we are completely different from other vendor products. And besides that, the patient comfort and the expanded patient demographics, with the short scanning time allowed by now the SynergyDrive, we can even maximize the revenue opportunity offering a high patient volume. In the meantime, OASIS Velocity makes the life of the healthcare professionals easier. It reduces the workload of the operators thanks to the intelligent, automated workflow features that improves examination efficiency by optimizing many factors with simplified operations, parameter settings, and the high-speed scanning. So I believe these are the most important topics nowadays in the modern radiology, and that's why Fujifilm makes real efforts to be one of the leaders of these technologies.
Great. So we've seen that OASIS Velocity has been deployed in the United States. I believe Europe is next.
Yeah, we are looking forward to do that.
Okay. Okay. Thanks a lot, Janusz, for this great summary.
Thank you, Mélisande.
Thanks. So we've talked a lot about OASIS Velocity and its human-centered design. We'd now like to know what your questions to Dr. Tanenbaum and Fujifilm are. Let me introduce Renata Kravchik. She's the MRCD Clinical Application Manager at Fujifilm Healthcare Europe, and she will moderate this discussion. Renata, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mel. So as I can see, we just got just one question till now. So I think people are somehow shy. I just would like to encourage to ask more questions. The question is where and when we'll be able to see the first of these machines installed in Europe? So I think that's the question to Luigi.
Yeah, we had interesting plans, but the first one will be in Germany, actually under installation at the present, and installation should be completed in the next days. And then there are many others to come. We have an interesting pipeline, but the first one will be in Germany.
Okay.
Yeah. That's, I don't see any more questions. I don't know if we are going to wait a little or so.
I would like to ask, naturally, after the United States and Europe, will Asia follow next? Are there some talks about it?
Luigi, the question was if the Asia will also follow. So it was
the connection is breaking.
Sorry. Sorry, I just wanted to know if after the United States and Europe, will Asia also install some of the OASIS Velocity systems? Is that
Asia? You mean Asia?
Asia. Japan.
Yes. Sorry, I have a strange noise. Yes, of course, the OASIS Velocity is a system which is successful worldwide. The market is certainly mature in America and in Europe, but we do have pipeline in all the other regions. Do not forget that we are present in Japan, in Singapore, in China. So we have a nice pipeline in other regions,
okay.
in particular in Asia. Sorry for the misunderstanding.
Dr. Tanenbaum, what about ease of use for radiologists? Is the system user-friendly?
Well, you know, in the US, you don't see a lot of radiologists going to an operator's console. I mean, I'm an exception as far as that goes. And I find the system very easy to deal with and easy to understand. I think the technologists find it as well. Now, outside the US, I think you'll find there'll be more physicians that will be sitting next to the console and may be tempted to touch it and operate it as they go. And I think it is an easy to understand, very facile interface. So I would think this would be seen as a positive.
Okay. And what about image interpretation? Is that easy to do?
Well, you know, you got to go to school for a good number of years and train and experience all matters. But I imagine you're asking me is how hard would I find to interpret the images? And frankly, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, you hear a lot of discussion about burnout in medicine and radiologists burnout in particular. And radiology is a high volume business. You have to sit down and go through a high number of cases every day. And I can tell you, from my 30 plus years of experience. So when you open up an ugly exam or a low resolution exam or a low SNR motion artifacted exam, your stress levels go up. Okay. When you open up an exam that has high curve appeal with sharp edges and low noise, your stress levels go down. Now, in general, when the signal to noise goes up, the contrast to noise goes up. That means we can see smaller and smaller things and see them with greater confidence. A shorter exam generally means a less motion artifact. Again, that helps as well. So the short answer to your question is beautiful images are easier to read and they read much more with greater facility. And there's no question that all the OASIS systems, but particularly particularly the newest baby, the Velocity delivers superb image quality. And again, I think you will get more than a boost in speed from the Velocity. You get a tool that can be used in a number of different ways, but for us, delivers better quality and better speed.
No, definitely important.
Mel, I have another question. Yes.
Okay.
Let me just read it. So will switching from a conventional, I understand, tunnel system to this one be easy? Is it difficult to switch personnel if running this and conventional one side by side?
Well, that's an interesting question. It is not any more difficult than running scanners from two different vendors. Right? We deal with this all the time. As practices get bigger and bigger, rare is the circumstance where there's only one vendor. I'm sure that everyone on the call would be happy to suggest they replace all the other machines with Fuji machines, and that would solve that particular problem. But I would say it does not pose any particular challenge. We have OASIS machines sitting next to GE machines and Siemens machines and Philips machines all over the country, and we have no difficulty. Obviously, there'll be techs who are used to using that more often than they use the others. But there's nothing unique about that challenge. It isn't particularly difficult, but it's not unique. I don't think anyone who wears an administrative hat will be shocked by any particular benefits, but there are no unique challenges.
Okay. If we don't have another question yet, I'd like to know more about how many scans do you have to read per day? We were talking about burnout before.
Well, in my career, I have read as many as 100 exams per day in private practice and 60 exams per day in academic practice. And I think those are starting to look like very modest numbers in clinical practice in the US today. And while the situation country by country in Europe is variable, I think that things are moving in that direction there as well. So again, one of the most important benefits of the new generation reconstructions is that the images are just less stressful to read. And you say, well, I don't understand stress. Well, we've all flown on airplanes, right? When you sit on an airplane, there's an awful lot of noise buffeting your system. Even if you don't notice it, your body's reacting. You're excreting cortisol. There's a stress that goes through you. They've actually shown that people who live in an area where the planes fly overhead, you can measure, even when they're sleeping, hormonal changes that are associated with the stress of all that noise. That's why we wear headphones. And when you wear those headphones, you arrive a little more refreshed. It's really the same thing in radiology. When you face one noisy image after the other, or you get that occasional bad case, it's stressful and it's disappointing. So making beautiful images just makes whatever you have to read per day easier to read. And there's no question you read them faster with lower stress. And I'm confident that better images lead to better diagnosis and fewer misses, because artifacts obscure pathology on a routine basis. Noise is innately capable of obscuring pathology. So the better the images get, the fewer problems we have like this.
Great.
Mel, I got another question to Dr. Tanenbaum. Is how long are your patient slots? In like 20 minutes or? And how did it change? It's from me. How did it change from the OASIS to Velocity?
Well, that's a very interesting question. And frankly, that we only have our Velocity for a short period of time. So I don't know that we've fully taken advantage of the incremental boost of the velocity, but this isn't our distinct plans. With all of these changes that we're rolling out through our industry, we're being aggressive at making sure they get integrated and converted into exam slots. I would say that the typical exam slot nationwide on our 40 to 50 systems that we have in this family is 30 minutes. In New York City, we are 20 minutes and would clearly move to 15 minutes with this technology. We have this restored in the Mid-Atlantic region, installed in the Mid-Atlantic region in the US, and it started at our typical 30 minutes, but I anticipate that we will get to 20 minutes on these machines. Remembering that what goes into an exam slot is the cumulative scan times, add them all up, but we also have the intangibles, like how long does it take the patient to get comfortable enough to sit on the table, right? And making sure that they've got their sound system so they can hear what they need to see. And patients that direct themselves to open magnets generally bring a greater challenge in terms of getting the exam started. So 20 minutes on an OASIS system is a pretty impressive thing. Will we get to 15 minutes in New York? Probably. May already be there. But I would say that for the most part, we anticipated a typical 30-minute slot nationwide, and with the OASIS, we anticipate that getting shorter, perhaps as short as 20 minutes. And as you know, one more patient per hour, has a significant impact on the bottom line. But more importantly, the ability to be on and off the table in 10 minutes for a patient has an enormous impact in the way they feel that day. We're focusing on the radiologist, but again, we all win when we focus on the patient, and focusing on the patient, they really do appreciate getting that episode over. It's stressful. We've all had exams. We've all waited for results. We don't like it. And when you just get out of the machine, at least that's over. It makes an enormous difference to patients.
Okay. I have another question, if that's okay. How big is the system? I mean, in terms of installation, how much room? Is there a difference?
I've got a picture of the magnet right on my screen, and I think it's about that big, about that tall. Now, there's probably somebody on your side who can answer those questions better than I can.
Okay.
Mel, we got some more questions. I think
right.
the people are getting more brave. So one is, what are the criteria that you use to direct the patients to the OASIS or to the classical tunnel system?
Well, when you buy a system like an OASIS, you really would like to leave it open to whoever wants it. So we don't find ourselves directing patients there unless they failed in a cylindrical bore system, right? Otherwise, we're just going to let you go where you want. We put these systems in. It's the field of dreams. For those of you who like Kevin Costner's movies, we make a open system available, and people who want open systems come. The only time we would direct someone there is really when they wouldn't fit in another system, or they've given us that we've been challenged to provide a quality exam in another system because of anxiety.
Yeah, the second question is related also to this. It's this tunnel MRI are just increasingly having wide bore. Do you think will this solve the claustrophobia problem?
That's a very interesting question, because as you know, the open MR market has changed over time, and certainly over my career. When we went to the wider bore cylindrical systems, the claustrophobic market diminished significantly. Thank God there was a company like Hitachi and now Fuji that stayed in that market to take care of this patient population, because it didn't go away. Some people find the cylindrical bore at 70 centimeters perfectly acceptable. Certainly many more than found a 60 centimeter bore acceptable, and in my life, a 55 centimeter bore. On the other hand, our open systems are busy for a reason. Most people, the people that end up in our scanners, that get scheduled in our scanners, most of them find the design with the open sides very reassuring and a very desirable thing. If you're uncomfortable in that cylindrical bore. So we have seen the market decline, but it is by far not gone. And as I said, we have invested heavily in this technology, and it has been a great investment to provide this technology to our patients. And while many of them are happy to be on a cylindrical bore system, You know, these systems are busy and humming, and these patients, for the most part, probably the majority of the patients we scan, find this system more desirable than a cylindrical bore at 70 centimeters.
Yeah, Mel, I don't see more questions. So
is my previous question valid now? Can anyone tell me, maybe Luigi or Janos, how much room do you need to install?
No, actually, for the operating room, you need to have a 6.2 meter by 4.2 meter room. So it's roughly 24 square meter for the operating room. Of course, you need some more spaces for the operators and for the technical room as well, but definitely not bigger than any other superconductive magnet.
Okay, so compared with other systems, it's not,
yeah.
You don't need much more. All right, right. Do we have any other questions?
No.
Luigi or Janos, you can also ask Dr. Tannenbaum a few questions.
I think Dr. Tanenbaum has been very, very exhaustive, and he has made an excellent overview. There are some of his sentences which are very good for understanding the great value that OASIS brings to a healthcare professional, and that certainly we will remember. I have nothing to add actually, and I hope that the attendees have enjoyed the experience from Dr. Tanenbaum.
I'd like to make one more comment.
Renata, yes?
Yeah, yes, we have another question, if I may. Dr. Tanenbaum, is still okay? We asked the question. Yeah, so it's how long are you planning to use the system? 10 years, and is it upgradable? I think it's a...
Well, that's an interesting question. I can answer half of it. I would say that we plan on using the system for longer than 10 years, as long as it's functional. But we do believe in procuring the appropriate upgrades when they're impactful. And certainly a step up from OASIS to OASIS Velocity was an impactful level innovation. And if and when upgrades are available for the OASIS systems, as well as in the future for the Velocity system, we would upgrade them. Again, because in general, when an innovation and an upgrade opportunity makes it to market, it has gone through so much vetting along the way that in general, it's virtually guaranteed to deliver value. So we tend to look at those opportunities very carefully and take advantage of as many as we can.
Right.
So can I ask a question?
Yes, you want to ask, of course.
Okay. So can we do this all again in July in Vienna? What do you think?
Okay, but we're all outside in the sunlight, just as you are now, please.
We all look forward to have a meeting in presence, because these online meetings are good, but subject to some noise and some difficulties in having a right conversation. So we look forward to meeting in presence in July.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time, Dr. Tannenbaum, and answering all these questions. If there are no other questions, then I guess it's time.
No more questions, yeah.
No, okay.
No.
Okay, so a big thank you to you, Renata, Luigi, Janos, Dr. Tannenbaum, and to everyone for joining us tonight. The recording of the session, including the Q&A, will be available for free on demand on ESR Connect. And if you have any questions about OASIS Velocity, please contact Fujifilm by clicking the button shown below your screen. I think there's a button right there. You can ask them directly. Thank you very much. Take care and goodbye.